Now, climate change, we know, has made our lives a lot more difficult. The seas are rising, our summers are hotter, the cyclones are getting bigger. But for Australia, the problem is a bit more immediate. In Australia, they're dealing with animal invasions. Spiders are blanketing fields and roads with their webs, and millions of mice are cutting their way through farms. It may sound like some heavenly reckoning, but these animals are just reacting to the extreme weather. Here's a report.
Welcome to the state of Victoria, where the spiders have mounted an invasion. Scientists call it ballooning. Elsewhere, there's another invasion underway. A deluge of mice gnawing and biting their way across eastern Australia. This week they reached here, the Wellington Correctional Centre. Authorities could see the disastrous headlines. Millions of them have invaded homes and farms. At night, it's almost like the entire house has come alive. The footboards are squeaking. The attic is bustling, and there's certainly something running around under your bed. Not fun at all. The mice plague is almost exclusive to Australia. They come when heavy rains follows a long spell of drought. Locals say this plague is the worst they can remember, and experts predict it could get worse. Australia's seesaw climate is causing these strange events. Unusually long dry spells followed by biblical rains.
Back now with that highly anticipated Pentagon report about UFOs and what it could reveal.
According to a U.S. official, the long-awaited intelligence report on unexplained aerial phenomena is expected to be sent to Congress later today.
We looked down, we saw this churning water, this disturbance in the water.
Retired Navy Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, a veteran combat pilot, says she spotted a UAP in 2004 near San Diego.
As a military officer, we're always conditioned to think friend or foe. There is a concern about national security, something in our immediate vicinity when we were conducting military exercises.
Just weeks ago, former Navy pilot Ryan Graves told 60 Minutes that pilots saw these regularly.
Every day for at least a couple of years.
This morning, U.S. intelligence and defense officials are scratching their heads, having examined 144 reports of what the government calls unidentified aerial phenomena from 2004 to 2021, but could not identify what 143 of the so-called UAPs were. 18 of the incidents, the objects appear to demonstrate some advanced technology, like remaining still in the wind, stopping instantly, or moving extremely fast with no visible propulsion, technology the U.S. is not known to possess, claiming, "We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are part of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary." But the senior U.S. government official said they still pose a safety and possible operational security concern. But for now, the mystery continues.
Oh. Yeah. Бедная машина. Машина там вот где-то. Ника, не смотри, пожалуйста.
I have always been pro-science and pro-vaccination. Before my vaccination, I was a healthy and active 39-year-old. I enjoyed activities outside, traveling and crafting with my family. I also cherished my work in a very busy pediatric dental office. I was not taking any medications prior to the vaccine, and I have never had a COVID infection, and I have been tested for proof. In January, my life changed drastically. Immediately after the injection, I felt an odd tingling type dripping sensation in my arm. I had immediate heart palpitations and a feeling as if I was going to pass out. I'm so sorry. And my blood pressure reading was so high that I don't know how I didn't have a stroke. I cannot quote what it was, but as a hygienist, I take blood pressure readings on my patients before I treat them, my adult patients. And it was so high that I was scared in that moment that something was happening to me. I did eventually stabilize. They monitored me for the 15 minutes and then an extra 30 minutes after. And I did stabilize, so they went on ahead and sent me home. When I got home, I felt a little, woozy, a little dizzy. The next couple of days, I just had a headache and just kind of that feeling of unwell, all of the things that I had signed up for to get the vaccine. But it was 3 days later that my symptoms increased and accelerated. I had a sharp stabbing pain in my scapula area that was just this intermittent, like a knife stabbing pain. I had tingling and numbness throughout my body. It ran down both my arms. I also still had the heart palpitations. I had these internal vibrations, and the only way I can explain the internal vibrations is it feels like you have this little electric shock running through your body, like you're stuck in a vibrating chair, like glued into it, and it never stops. I have tremors in my hands, which has made me leery if I'll ever be able to practice as a hygienist again. And like Cheryl, I am so fearful that I may have some sort of neurological issue after this with Parkinson's. They have ruled out MS, but again, they have not told me that I have anything. They can tell me what I don't have. I have swollen lymph nodes, brain fog. I had brain fog so extreme that I would be having a conversation with someone and I would black out. Try to come back to that conversation and nothing was there. Swollen lymph nodes, muscle weakness, unexplained skin rashes. I had convulsions and nighttime seizures. I had to have my 6-year-old daughter wake me up from a fit in the middle of the night. No 6-year-old should have to do that for their parent.
Meanwhile, here's a question that is getting bigger by the day. Are Chinese vaccines failing? Beijing may not accept it. The World Health Organization may not accept it. Even the countries receiving Chinese shots may not accept it due to diplomatic restraints. But the failing efficacy of made-in-China shots is too obvious to ignore. In Indonesia, doctors who received Sinovac have become patients. Hundreds of them have tested positive despite full vaccination, and tens of them have lost their lives. And then we have countries like the Seychelles, Bahrain and Mongolia, where the infections are rising despite half of their populations being fully vaccinated. All these countries mostly relied on Chinese vaccines, and now they're being forced to ask some serious questions. Some of them should be directed at the World Health Organization too. Our next report tells you why.
Indonesia is battling a resurgent virus. The Delta variant has triggered a crisis. The caseload has skyrocketed. The death toll is soaring. And the failing efficacy of a certain vaccine has triggered outrage. China's Sinovac. In August 2020, Indonesia signed a multi-billion-dollar deal for 50 million doses of Sinovac. 10 months on, the Made in China shot has triggered a crisis. On the receiving end are Indonesia's doctors. At least 20 doctors have died despite being fully vaccinated with Sinovac. 10 of them died this month. And 31 other cases of doctor deaths are being investigated. Indonesia's health workers are alarmed. Around 90% of Indonesian doctors, 160,000 in total, have been vaccinated with the Chinese shot. Most of them are ending up sick. In the town of Kudus, 358 medical workers have tested positive in a 2-week span. In central Java, 300 vaccinated doctors have been infected in 1 month. The health system is close to collapse. Questions are being raised on the Chinese-made shot. But Indonesia is not the only country seeking answers. Several countries that relied on Chinese vaccines now regret their decision. China has sold a total of 792 million doses to 43 countries. Out of these, 25 million doses have been donated, and 302 million doses have been delivered. In Mongolia, 52% of the population has been vaccinated, mostly with China's Sinopharm shots. On Sunday, it recorded 2,400 new infections, a quadrupling from a month before. In the Seychelles, 64% of the population has been fully vaccinated, making it the most vaccinated country in the world. But right now, Seychelles has more COVID cases per capita than India. 716 infections per 1 million people have been reported in the last 7 days. In Bahrain, China's Sinopharm accounts for 60% of the vaccinations. But the rising infections in fully vaccinated people have forced the country to administer booster shots of a different vaccine. While there's no denying that vaccines are not foolproof in preventing infection, but the relatively low efficacy rates of Chinese shots is indeed becoming a cause of concern. It is also exposing the politics and fault lines in the global health infrastructure. On the 1st of June, Sinovac was validated for emergency use by none other than the World Health Organization. The health body vouched for its efficacy and international standards of safety. Now, it seriously needs to re-evaluate its assertions for the sake of its own credibility.
So the most sophisticated military in the world has no idea what these things are or even how they move from place to place. Some of these aircraft, the report says, quote, appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed, all without discernible means of propulsion.
And it's interesting, it's a mixed bag. It's a long way of saying, and it's about 9 pages, of saying we don't know what these things are. Some of them may be misperceptions. Other things, this is interesting, might be foreign adversaries like Russia or China, some breakthrough aerospace technology, and frankly, a lot of them, they simply don't know. So I think the important point is this report is not the end of the story, but should be the beginning of a much more detailed research and investigation program until we find out what we're dealing with here.